Good morning. Approximately 1:30 this morning, an I-95 in the Edgewater area, we had several multi-vehicle crashes involving semi-trucks and other passenger vehicles. What we now know happened is there was almost zero visibility in the area based on smoke and fog that had mixed together, and visibility dropped to zero. In the northbound lanes, we now have confirmed 4 separate crashes involving a total of 11 vehicles. There is 1 fatality in one of those crashes. Numerous other people were transported, including a child that was airlifted to Arnold Palmer. That child is stable. Miraculously, when you look at some of these cars in the northbound lanes, there are people that survived that don't know how that happened. In the southbound lanes, we have 1 crash that involves 6 vehicles, 4 tractor trailers, an SUV, and a van. We have a deceased truck driver, and the driver of the SUV is deceased on scene. We have I-95 shut down from State Road 44 in Volusia County to State Road 5 in Brevard County. And we do expect those closures to remain in place throughout the day, possibly into early evening. The best detour route would be US 1 or to avoid the 95 area altogether. We have our flare team out here that's investigating all of these crashes together, the chain reaction, which one started first. We have good witnesses. We'll be looking to see if any of the semi-trucks had dash cam. When I arrived on scene about 2 hours later, there was still zero visibility. So it was pretty bad out here. These drivers could not see. So it's a reminder for anybody driving, and especially in the overnight hours when we seem to have this problem, is that if you come upon this sudden smoke and fog mixture, what do? The best thing is to activate your hazard lights, turn off your radio so you can hear. Use the roadway markings as your guide if you cannot see the roadway. If you feel unsafe driving, pull off of the road completely. And then that way you're not in the travel lane. Again, it's so early to tell what happened, who started this. We did have a couple of semis catch fire and completely burn down. And right now we'll just continue to investigate.
And it seems like all of the incidents happened right here in this area of Edgewater, right?
Correct. They happened all in the area of Edgewater, both the crash in the southbound and the northbound lanes. And the drivers that were able to talk to us did say the visibility suddenly dropped to zero and they were unable to see inches in front of their vehicle. Some of those drivers attempted to pull off onto the shoulder, and then of course some of them stopped in the road, and that's again where we had our chain reaction crashes happen.
Lieutenant, can you tell us again the rundown of how many people were hurt and killed in this?
So not sure yet on the total number of people that were hurt and transported. We're still waiting to get those numbers. In the crashes in the northbound lane, we had 4 separate crashes with 11 different vehicles, and we had 1 traffic fatality in one of those 4 crashes. We did have a child transported out of that vehicle and other people transported. None of those injuries are life-threatening. In the southbound lane, it was 1 crash. It was 6 total vehicles, 4 semis, a van, and an SUV. The driver of the SUV and the driver of one of the semis is deceased on scene.
And with the visibility issue, the smoke came in. I mean, that likely came from a prescribed or controlled burn, correct? As far as you know, was FHP notified at all about a burn happening overnight?
We were not notified of a burn that we could tell so far. Obviously, we're going to go back and make sure and check to see. We always have a good partnership with Department of Forestry, and so we're looking into that right now. But to my knowledge, we have not been notified about this burn, so we'll be looking at that aspect of it. We do know that that's a causation of the crash this morning, but we also have to look at driver responsibility and driver error. So this is going to be a lengthy investigation just due to the number of vehicles involved and number of people that we have to talk to.
And Lieutenant, you've seen some bad stuff. I mean, this is really bad. If you're out there and you're looking, I mean, unfortunately, we're seeing some of this too. The impact that this is going to have for several families.
So unfortunately, I have been to several of these types of crashes over the years involving where visibility sudden drops, and we have some severe impacts. Again, I'm amazed that some of the people walked away from this, and then again, sad for those families that are going to have loved ones that didn't survive or that were injured. And again, this is a phenomenon that happens throughout Central Florida with our weather. When we have the smoke and the fog mix, especially when it's cooler, especially in the overnight hours. So again, if you have travel plans, this can happen on an interstate, this can happen on a local road. Turn the radio off, turn your windshield wipers on, turn your low beams on, not your high beams, and just, you really have to be focused. Decrease the speed. That is the biggest thing we can tell people to do. This is not the time to be doing the speed. When I came out here 2 hours after this crash happened, I was doing 1 mile an hour creeping along the interstate because I could not see in front of my vehicle. So the speed issue, again, we need people, when they have a hazard, to immediately take that foot off the gas pedal and slow down.
So you talked about how, as far as you know, you work every time, but if you had been, what would be the protocol? I mean, would the lanes have been shut down?
So we have a protocol in place that we've had several years, and it's evolved when we've had these types of crashes, to work with Division of Forestry. They notify us of prescribed burns, and then we get with the National Weather Service to do a forecast reading to tell us the likelihood of an issue happening like this. And if there is one, then we place a trooper in the area for that time period that there's a likelihood that to happen. And again, we say we were not told, but we're going to go back and make sure. We're going to go through all our calls and stuff like that to make sure. And we'll look at that to see, but we've had this system in place for several years. There's been numerous fires that we have staffed that we've never had an issue, even though it was expected. And then sometimes the weather forecast is wrong and it's telling us it's not going to happen, and then we end up having an issue. But our goal is always to stay on top of that and monitor these types of fog and smoke issues so that we can try and be on top of that. But again, we want drivers to realize they have a responsibility also. Speed plays a factor. If it's raining, if it's smoke, if it's fog, the gas pedal, your foot should be coming off the gas pedal and you should be slowing down.
Can you, one more time, because this is going to affect a lot of people, it's still early in the morning, people are waking up to this, what do they need to know if they're going to plan to travel?
So we actually have Bike Week starting, and we know we have a lot of people that's going to be traveling to the Volusia County area. I-95 will be shut down for the good part of the day today. We will have the northbound lane shut down beginning from State Road 44 all the way to State Road 5 in Brevard County, and then coming southbound. Coming northbound, we'll have I-95 shut down from State Road 5 to right here in Edgewater to 442. And then they can proceed up there on 95 afterwards. And we've been notifying the truckers because obviously it affects a lot of them because they use this roadway.
You may have already said this, Jim, but were you guys already kind of monitoring this area? And like, was there talks of potentially shutting it down because of the visibility?
So we were not monitoring this area. It was not on the trooper that was working in the area. He was working other calls. We received the call of the northbound crash and started responding, and then we got the calls of the southbound crashes. So then that's when everybody collaboratively came together and got the road shut down as quickly as possible.
So this was the first crash right here that you guys reported?
Preliminarily, yes. We still have to work a timeline out and talk to witnesses and stuff like that, but that's what we've been told.
And this was right around 1:30 in the morning?
This was right around 1:30 this morning, correct.
Do you know anything about what the semi-trucks were transporting that may have also contributed to the severity of the crash or the fire?
So I'm not sure what was in the two semis that caught fire. I know that the fire had gone out and then it reignited, probably because some kind of fuel in there. I know we had a hazmat team out here looking for the diesel fuel. Nobody was carrying fuel other than what was in their gas tanks. In the southbound crash, we had one of the trucks carrying furniture, one carrying refrigerators. So we will be, again, that's part of the investigation as to the trucks, what their responsibility was, and making sure that they all have everything in line and order.
Those flames were pretty big. I mean, you said that they tried to handle that and then the flames caught up again. I mean,
the trooper told me he heard explosion out here, so when he got on scene. So yeah, pretty, and both those truck drivers were able to get out of those vehicles.
Do
Is there any damage to the highway that you know?
We don't know if there's any damage to the highway yet. There could potentially be. We see a lot of gouge marks. We see a lot of other roadway markings. So there could be potential damage. And then the fire itself, the DOT will come out here and inspect that before we open up this road. Absolutely. So this is a very complex fatal crash scene. We have 2 fatal crashes, 1 on each side. That's very unusual to have something like that. We typically only have one side affected. And with the multi-vehicles, we have to see each action of each vehicle, very tedious process of gathering the evidence and the physical evidence on the roadway to see what happened, talking to witnesses, documenting everything with pictures. And so that just takes time, and then the cleanup process will happen after that. Then we'll have to look at the road and make sure that none of the roadway is damaged. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.